prove those allegations. It's just blatant bias. It's just unbelievable. It's right there in your face. They just make no attempt. It's unashamed. They make no attempt to disguise the fact that they are actively biased against Michael Jackson. And I just find that astounding.
Well, you wrote a piece in the Huffington Post, Michael Jackson, it's time for outlets to take responsibility in covering the rock star. What kind of response did you get to that?
The media, in terms of media response, none. Because, apart from you asking me for this interview, because it highlights everything that they're doing wrong. They're not going to call me up. The New York Times is not going to call me up and say, "Oh, hi, Charlie, could you just write us a piece about how we're really biased?" Or, "Hi, I saw you wrote that piece in the Huffington Post about how crap our journalism is. Can you give us an interview about it?" Because it just highlights their shortcomings. In terms of public response, there are lots of comments underneath the Huffington Post article. I would say probably 95% of which are positive. Jackson seems to have this following of obsessive detractors. People who just you wonder what's gone wrong in their lives, why they've got nothing better to be doing, because they literally just seem to trawl around the internet, typing Michael Jackson into Google, finding pages with his name on, and then writing nasty comments about it, which is quite unbelievable, and then turning on anyone who writes anything in his favor as well. But in terms of public response, particularly to the Huffington Post piece, it has been positive, which I think should just send a message to the media. People, because the media, they often use this excuse, we're just giving the people what they want. We're just giving the public what they want. But if the public response to my Huffington Post article is anything to go by, then they're not giving the people what they want, because I've got hundreds of people writing underneath it that they're so relieved and so thankful that somebody's writing the truth about Michael Jackson for once, So, yeah, the response has been largely, almost overwhelmingly positive.
I know that there's also a negative reaction to your work, false claims made about you, and is this from these fanatics that are out to point a finger at Michael?
There are a couple of. It happens to anyone who takes Jackson's side. You do have these kind of militantly anti-Jackson, posters on the internet, and they try to discredit anyone. I think they find me threatening because a lot of the people who write in Michael Jackson's favor are overtly fans. They kind of obsessive. They use religious language sometimes. They describe him as an angel or whatever, and they find me threatening. I think because I'm not like that. I am a journalist. I'm an accredited journalist. I don't portray Jackson as a martyr. Some of them describe me as a flu. I don't know where that word's come from. FOON, like I'm some kind of crazed fan. But I don't even like all of Jackson's albums. I don't even like all of his tours. I'm not some crazed fan. Did I like Off the Wall and Thriller? Yes. Did I have tickets to This Is It? Yes. But did I camp outside his house every day? No. I'm not some kind of crazed fan. I'm just a regular person who enjoys some of Jackson's work. And they tried to portray me as this, in their words, floon. And there are people who claim that I don't exist. They claim that I'm some kind of composite, created by the fans, as a front for them. There are people who claim that I am actually a writer called Deborah French. There's another British writer called Deborah French who covers the same territory as me sometimes. And these people, they claim baselessly that Deborah and I are the same person. I've spoken to Deborah. I've spoken to her on the phone. She definitely exists, and she's definitely not me. So it amazes me because they tried to discredit my research, although all of my research pretty much is sourced directly from official documents, whether it be FBI files, trial transcripts, grand jury testimony, police documents or whatever. And if I don't source it from there, then I source it from reliable books like J. Randy Taraborelli's Michael Jackson biography. And so on the one hand, they're trying to claim that my research is poor, and on the other hand, they're claiming without any evidential basis, with no basis in reality, that I don't even exist, or they're claiming with no evidential basis that I am the same person as Deborah French, or they're claiming, whatever. It's just like they're claiming that I'm some kind of deranged fan. They have no evidential basis for any of these statements. It just amazes me how desperate they are to discredit anyone who says anything pro-Jackson. I think a lot of that is racially motivated. A lot of it is I can't really tell you where it comes from, but there just do seem to be this relatively small amount of Jackson detractors who put themselves all over the internet trying to discredit anything pro-Jackson. I don't quite understand what their motivation would be, or, what went so tragically wrong in their lives that they've got nothing better to be doing with their time. But they just seem to be militant and obsessive. They call Jackson's fans obsessive, and yet they are the ones typing his name into Google every day and spamming all of his websites with nasty messages. How obsessive is that? So I really don't take much notice of them, to be honest. I don't engage with them. I'm lucky enough that they haven't started emailing me or anything. They've kept it all on websites like Topics. I would prefer that they weren't out there making these stupid claims, that I don't exist and stuff, because that's not very good for me, in terms of getting work, getting business. If people type my name into Google and the first thing they find is that I don't exist. But
well, we're speaking with soul funk music specialist Charles Thomson, a real journalist who's based in England, and I know that you're somewhat of an authority on James Brown, and last week there came out a story that his body was stolen. What do you know about that?
Yeah, I have to say, I was up working quite late on, I think it was on Thursday night. I was up, it was about 3 a.m. in the UK, and I was just about to go to bed, and I just clicked on Google News to see what the top stories were, and I almost jumped out of my chair because there was a story on the Daily Mail website that James Brown's body had been snatched, stolen from its tomb. And, I can't claim to have been a friend of James Brown's, but I did meet him, I did exchange words with him, I did see him live several times, and I've done a lot of work on him since he passed away. And I do know people who were close to him. I know people that saw him on a daily basis. I know people that worked with him, toured with him. And I was thinking also how they were going to react to this news. It's just the idea of stealing a body anyway, grave robbing, essentially, is so despicable and disturbing. I couldn't believe it. I had to go to bed, and it was a strange time to start calling anyone anyway. But the next day I did speak to Mr. Brown's son, Darryl Brown, who was his tour guitarist, and he basically said to me, look, this story is not true. The allegations are being made by a lady who is essentially a love child. She came forward after James Brown died, took a DNA test, and it was found that she was more likely his daughter than not. But, she doesn't really have any family ties. She's not even been to the crypt. So the family released a statement later that day. But what you find, if you type it into Google, the media they're still kind of going, oh, there's a controversy surrounds whether or not James Brown's body has been stolen. His body has not been stolen. There's no controversy. His body has just not been stolen. One woman said that it had been, and now the family has authoritatively dismissed that claim. So yeah, the body has not been stolen. I spoke to Mr. Brown's family in the last couple of days, and the body is where it should be.
So another case of media lies. inaccuracies.
Not necessarily lies, because this lady did contact the media under her own volition and tell them that the body was missing. And I suppose they thought she was an authoritative source because she is his daughter, officially. So I can see why they went with the story, because it is a truly shocking story, and they seem to have